Hey, it's Alex, and I wasn't expecting to be saying that Lost Judgment might end up being one of my Game of the Year contenders, not just because you can shoot laser blasts at dapper middle-aged thugs, and not just because you can climb the ranks of the local cat community, and not just because you can play a fully fledged light gun zombie shooter, and not just because you can do a 720 backside pop shove on the way to Mahjong to then get there and realize you'll never understand how to actually play Mahjong, and not just because you can let your detective pupper do all the sleuthing for you, and not just because I got kinda overly competitive on a very wholesome first date.
Son of a...
And not just because you can chill at your place and play Master System games instead. And not just because you can trick out your drone and try to dominate the underground drone racing scene. And not just because I can summon my inner American and have 3 burgers as a meal. And not just because you can question the validity of claw machine gravity resistance and grip just like in real life. And not just because you can spend 520,800 yen on scorpions. And not just because my hoverboarding montage is coming along quite nicely. No, all of those things are quite great. But what hooked me the most was the cinematic combat system this time around and the down-to-earth yet somewhat still over-the-top storytelling. Was that a video game journalism 1 run-on sentence record? Sure hope so. Lost Judgment from the Yakuza series studio, which shares many features in this, is a refinement of over a decade of trial and light error. I have played a few of the Yakuza games, and the ones with real-time combat, not the recent turn-based from Like a Dragon which I dug, has always been pretty hit and miss for me. However, Lost Judgment is what I consider to have the optimal 3D brawler combat that they always wanted to nail right. Your character's not slow and sluggish, you can jump kick off of walls, you can float through the air, and satisfyingly avoid damage with responsive dodges and blocks. Also, the difficulty is tuned pretty well, and some of the structured story fights will kick your buttocks if you're not prepared with enough healing goodies or raw skill. There are 3 different fighting styles or stances to help you take on these situations, which any one of them could be good enough to be an entire standalone combat system in something else entirely. One is really good at breaking through enemies' block, and another is really good at performing parries. But my personal favorite, the crane style, is quick evasion focused with wide-reaching area of effect strikes that are dumb enjoyable when outnumbered, which is pretty much most all the time. So as a self-proclaimed combat mechanics tyrannosaur, I fully give the stamp of approval on this battle system. It's just plain and simply fun, which more games need to try and tap into. As for the detective lawyer story, I don't want to go into the details too much here, but let me just put it this way. I'm the type of person who is rarely captivated by video game storytelling because it's usually barely passable as Saturday morning cartoon levels of writing and character development. Lost Judgment's story, on the other hand, is grounded with just the right amount of goofiness. It's also well written, constructed, and voice acted. This makes it one of the only stories from the entirety of what I played so far in 2021 that I actually cared about and didn't want to just skip through to get back to the core gameplay. You don't have to have played any of the Yakuza games, or even the first Judgment game for that matter. You can easily just jump in with this and have a 99% optimal time without having to touch any of that. This is maybe not the type of game that will harness the immense power of the mainstream audience, but for those with a slightly more refined gaming palette willing to give a detective brawler epic a fair chance, you will not be disappointed. Once the game gets going with the ridiculous amount of things you can do in it, it gets quite addictive. That of course is just my opinion on Lost Judgment, so let me know if yours differs if you picked it up. This has been Alex, I appreciate you checking this out today, and thanks for watching Boomstick Gaming.